Thank you, Ron. And thank you everyone for being here. Ron at SCORE and all of the mentors are an incredible resource. And they're so good at it, it's hard to believe it's free, but it is. And they have made a tremendous difference in my own business over the years. And I have seen that repeated in other businesses as well. So you've made a smart move by being here today. And John with the Wichita Public Library is an incredible resource and probably underutilized. So also wonderful information that you'll receive today. So you're in the right place. Thank you for being curious about social media marketing. We're all familiar with social media and it's something that's become intuitive for a lot of us, but when used in a business setting to promote your small business and any of the other things that you want it to do for your small business, it really needs to be strategic. And that is not always intuitive. And so I'm glad that you're here today so that we can discuss some of the most effective strategies for you to use social media marketing for your small business. You may wonder why you need a social media presence. You may have one personally. You may or may not have a complicated personal relationship with social media. However, if you have a small business, regardless of your personal feelings about it, it becomes essential for you to maximize your reach. And so there are a number of different reasons why you may need a social media presence. It will create at its best a sense of community that is built around your business. And John, if you'd like, we can advance to the next slide already. And so they can just kind of see some of the points that I want to make about why this is really essential. It creates awareness about your business, which is pretty much a given if you do it well and if you're able to increase your reach with it. It builds relationships around your current customers and your potential customers. And your social media presence is very often the very first thing that people know, see, or experience about your business. Gone are the days when we might even Google a business. The first thing that people are going to do is probably go to Facebook, but it will be some kind of social media to find out, does your business exist? They'll search for it by name. If you have hours and they want to come in, that's where they'll be looking. And they're also looking and scrolling through your feed to see what your business is all about. So that first impression and this potential to build a community of support around your business are really some of the best reasons to have a social media presence. But like all things with your business, you'll really want to be strategic about it and learn to do it well and realize why you're doing certain things. One of the most important things, and if you want to go to the next slide, is you'll want to incorporate video in your social media. And depending on where you're at in this cycle, that may seem like an intimidating thing to do, but it doesn't need to be. And it no longer needs to be an expensive endeavor like it used to be. Years ago, it was almost required to have a polished video presence if you were going to have a video presence at all. Now, people want to see, within reason, your messy fingerprints on your own video. And so they'll want to see you authentically showing up with your business so that they can get a sense of who you are and who your business is. The nice thing about that is you'll see that people who come across your video, first of all, are more likely to pay attention when a message is moving. It could be a video, it could even be an animated portion of a post, but they will not only stop and see it, but they will retain it, and they'll retain whatever that message is 95% better than they would if they were reading it. And that's a pretty astounding statistic and probably doesn't surprise you. You've probably experienced this in your own life. Most customers would rather learn about a product or a service by way of video, and most of them are doing it on a mobile device. This video consumption on a mobile device increases almost doubling on itself every year for the last few years. And by this year, and we've seen it to be true, online videos make up the majority of all of our consumer internet traffic. They're about 18 times higher than it was, or 15 times higher than it was in 2017. I've seen some reports where that number is actually higher. Either way, it's really an important thing to take part of. And you can use this in ways that you may not have considered yet, such as 360-degree tours of a business. I've seen this done in all types of businesses, from salons that we've worked with to something as, part stores, just everything you might think of as a small business, this applies. People want to see what it's like there, even if they're planning to physically come into your business. If you have a physical business for them to visit, they still want to have a sense of what it is before they go. It can also be used for tutorials, some kind of educational expertise, or expert positioning. You might position yourself or your business as a resource that consumers begin to look for and build trust with. Regardless of what you do, and here we'll look at the next slide, consistency is going to be key. And I have found with the dozens and dozens of small businesses that we've worked with to help them with their social media marketing, and the businesses that we've come into contact through this wonderful SCORE mentoring, we find that one of the biggest challenges is being consistent, because after all, you have a business to run. And as someone who's also run a small business or two, that requires a lot of different hats. And social media posting and marketing and strategy is often on your list, but might get pushed farther and farther down to the bottom of that list and never make it to a consistent task that you do. And so I would watch for that. If you are interested in learning about it and continuing to learn about it, because social media is definitely a moving target, it's something that you'll need to always be informed about how it's changing and how people are reacting and what they want to see. If you're willing to do all of that and make it a priority, you can absolutely do this yourself. If you find that you have good intentions and good ideas, but you're not always achieving the consistency, it may be time to look for someone to assist you in that. But the good news is that if you are consistent about it, it will help make your brand easily recognizable. Remember how I said people will just come to Facebook to look to see if your business is open right now, where it's located, what the hours it might be. They're also looking at that consistency, whether they might be thinking about it at that moment or not. If they see that your last post was in 2019, they might wonder, is this accurate? Is this business actually still open? So make sure that you're posting consistently. It will make it recognizable. And the added benefit of that is if you have a business that does multiple things, or that offers a service that is nuanced in some way, you can use this consistent social media posting to help people understand the different facets of your brand, what it does, and your brand identity. On the next slide, we'll look at a little bit of the frequency ideas behind the strategy for posting. This varies. I've put up some averages, but this will vary according to what type of business you have, what your goals are, and what your overall strategy is. But that said, on an average, you'll want to post at least 3 times a week. Some businesses, it makes sense to post daily, and some once a week will be enough. So it will just really depend on what type of business you have and where you're going with your social media. But you'll want to do it consistently. And you'll also want to do it according to some type of formula that you devise that fits your overall strategy. So if you're selling something, which most of us are, we're in business, you don't want every post to be about that, because you're going to turn off your customers and potential customers that are seeing you on social media. You don't want to do a hard sell all the time. You want to share about your business in a post. You'll want to share some expertise that is particular to you or your business in another post. And then you may have a post that is some kind of pitch for your product or service. But that's a pretty simple formula to follow that we found pretty effective over the long run, where you're sharing about the business, about your expertise, and then perhaps a pitch once in a while. Schedule those in advance. If you're doing your own social media, one of the best ways to be consistent is to schedule it in advance. Set aside a day every week or a day once a month and share these, create these posts and share them. The benefit to that is it gives you some time to think about what you're saying before you say it. And when you schedule a post ahead of time, you give yourself a buffer. So maybe you think, oh, this is a great idea. I'm going to share this with my social media followers. And then as you reflect on that later, you're like, I wish I would have said something additional, or I wish I wouldn't have said something that I did. When you schedule it, it gives you a buffer that you could potentially go in and make an adjustment if you needed to. That's a much better way to do it than putting a post out there without little thought and then going back in and editing it. Not only can people see your edit history should they search for it, but you always have that risk that you're reaching a lot of people right away and having maximum impact with information that you didn't really want out there. Where you share it. So share that across your social media platforms that you're on, what type of business you're in, and we'll talk more about this in a moment, will make it, will impact which platforms you want to be on. But you'll also want to make your social media effective, connect that to your website. So think of your website as another content channel. It's not quite social media, but used well, it can really connect people from social media to your website where they can learn more in-depth information. So if you do have a website, you'll want to make some kind of connection there. You can post on there something more informative if that makes sense for your business, at least once a month. Once a week would be even better, but it gives you a reason to pull people from social media and drive them to your website. And there are some reasons for that that we'll talk about in a moment as well. The final part of that is once you convert people from your social media to your website or to some specific action, whether it is, I had in here booking a tour of your retirement community, it is likely that that does not apply to you, but that applies to anyone who wants to interact with a customer. So take them from social media onto your website and convert them to some kind of action from either of those things that you want to happen. So you'll need to think about, what do you want to happen from this interaction? Are you interested in sales? Are you interested in building a list of people that you can communicate with? Are you interested in awareness about your business or about becoming a thought leader in your area? So what you want to do will really impact the strategy that you use to get there. And on the next slide, we'll take a closer look at some of these platforms. This is not an exhaustive list. And in fact, depending on your business, there are things that are left off this list that probably should be on it. TikTok has really taken over. So it is the #1 rising social media site right now. If it's appropriate to your business and you're ready to make videos, that would be a great place for you to be. And it's not on this list, but it is something to consider. Facebook is a powerhouse platform, as you well know. It is geared toward news and entertainment. We find a lot of businesses that have a presence there. In fact, many businesses will have one of their main social media presences on Facebook. And this is where you will do the best at grabbing people with social media, grabbing their attention, and then driving them to your website. So think about that. Instagram is another very hot platform as well. It makes sense for you to be on there, especially if your product or service or you or your business are very visual. If I was helping someone who had a floral design company, definitely they should be on Instagram, and it should be curated carefully to look like a beautiful representation of that business. So take that idea and apply it to whatever business you're in. If it's highly visual, or if it's highly educational with visuals, it makes sense to be on Instagram. Twitter is when you have a thought or a message that you want to get out right away. So people are sharing or going there. It's not as much a social network, although there are some great discussions that happen on Twitter. But for a business presence, you'll want to be there. You'll want to share things, but it probably won't be your main focus unless you're in some kind of fast-paced or fast turnaround or need to reach customers quickly business. Pinterest, again, that's something that is highly visual. There are some sales opportunities on Pinterest that might benefit you if you have, say, a boutique clothing store or home decor. That would be a wonderful place for you to be, that you can just put people directly into your sales funnel from that, depending on what they like or click on. It's really effective in that way. LinkedIn, if this is also a really important platform for most businesses. And there are a couple of different ways to navigate this. First, you may have your own professional network. However, you'll also want to have an established business page as well. Don't rely only on your business page. You'll want to link back and forth between your professional and your business page. It'll maximize the traffic and the attention that you have there. But this would be a great place for sharing industry articles or professional content. One of the places that we work with is a medical device startup, and this is an excellent platform for them. We look for and share a lot of industry information on there, as well as information about this particular startup, according to a formula that doesn't inundate people with their own business updates. So that works really well for that kind of networking. And of course, Google Plus. I have mixed feelings about this. This is still on the list, but I do feel it's not as effective as it once was, or it never reached its full potential in that way. So it might make sense to be part of your social media strategy, or it might not. And if you're in doubt, there are companies that maybe you don't need someone to handle your social media for you, but maybe you need someone who can set you up and give you good advice on how to do that. So you might look for a consultant that could offer you some training, because those people are out there as well. All right, on the next slide, let's look at the power of organic reach. Organic reach is really important, especially to small businesses and businesses that are getting off the ground, because organic reach is essentially non-paid social media. And anytime you can get non-paid advertising, in a sense, for your business, you'll come out ahead. It helps you preserve that budget or not spend a budget that you don't really have. So let's look at the next slide on one of the most misused advantages to non-paid social media. So let's talk about hashtags. The true function of a hashtag is really to work as a search term. And we're all familiar with hashtags at this point. This may seem like an obvious slide to look at, but here's the rub. It is often used incorrectly. If you have ever seen someone's post with a hashtag that is just a phrase all run together with hashtag in front of it, it is doing no good. It might be clever for that moment, but it's not going to benefit that business in any way. So the hashtag might be, I can't even think of anything off the top of my head, but I've seen them sometimes that are like hashtag Sarah's new business that does crochet work. You know, they just run together. They don't make sense, just like this hashtag didn't make much sense that I just came up with. So don't use those. What you're going to want to do is create a hashtag specific to your business. So this is a good example. We help with the social media for Women's Fair, which is an annual event that's going on this weekend. If you have time, you should go. It's a wonderful event. But we use a specific hashtag, and we use it with consistency so that people, when they click on the hashtag Wichita Women's Fair, that hashtag will pull up all of the posts that we've made that, and even some of the exhibitor posts that are using that as well. So it not only allows customers or potential customers to look at your business and the history of that, but it expands that as well, because now they may see how one of your vendors or a satisfied customer or someone else has used that hashtag that you have established. And so it's a wonderful way to boost a post organically and to boost your reach. It's important then to use them strategically. So you may, if your business happens to be, for example, in the future, an exhibitor at Women's Fair, you will want to use that established hashtag along with your own, and that extends the reach of your post. You'll also want to use that to connect you as a thought leader or an industry expert or whatever your positioning target is. You can use that by sharing information from your industry and an established hashtag from, say, some kind of organization that's vital to your industry, and adding that to your post, because not only will you potentially see people who are interested in that industry as a whole come to you, but you'll also establish a connection there that only elevates your stance as an expert. There are a lot of ways to do that, but take a few minutes and search hashtags that you think might work for your business and see who's using them and what kind of effect are they having. Are they popular? And if they're not, don't use them. All right, on the next slide, let's look at some strategy when it comes to organic posts. How many hashtags to use? Some of this information changes from time to time, and some of it stays pretty much the same. On Facebook, there was this school of thought that we went from using a lot of hashtags to none. And there was an idea, because we're always chasing this new information about algorithms and trying to interpret the way that different companies have set up and have changed their algorithms. So for a while we said no hashtags on Facebook. Now we're back. 1 or 2 on Facebook will help your customers connect. You probably don't have to do it all the time with every post, but certainly do it on the ones that you want to come up if a customer searches through your history. On Instagram, this is new too, because we used to say you can use up to 30, and that is in some cases still true. Then we said, don't use them on the post itself. Make those hashtags all in the first comment, or maybe put 1 or 2 with the post and then load up those hashtags in the first comment. Now there is some new thought just in the last couple of weeks that the Instagram algorithm has changed, and that you might be penalized for adding hashtags to your posts. That's still up in the air, but something to definitely investigate. Twitter, use 2 or 3. You're really kind of limited in what you're able to say there. If there's anywhere you're going to have hashtags that you can stack, definitely do it on Twitter if you have the space. Pinterest, 4 or 5. LinkedIn, use a few, don't go overboard. And you'll want to stay away from hashtags that are clever but don't serve the purpose of your post. And as I mentioned earlier, don't make up a hashtag sentence long structure. It won't do you any good. And there is really a school of thought out there that people don't like that when they come across it anyway. So better just to steer clear. On this next slide, we'll start looking at the power of paid reach. So there are some paid social media strategies that you can do. We'll look a little bit more at that on the next screen. You'll want to be careful with that though, because on the plus side, social media is really a cost-effective way to reach a lot of people. It's often less expensive than other types of advertising that you might do. And it's so accessible. You don't need to place a phone call to a newspaper, have an ad made up by a graphic designer, either your own or the print publication. Although there's certainly a place for print advertising in certain circumstances. But the nice thing about social media is all of it is at your fingertips. So you have the opportunity to really maximize what you have going on social media. You'll want to steer clear of boosting posts. And the reason why is that you will find that for whatever reason, if you put up a post and it gets a little more attention than another post, you will immediately have a Facebook message that says, this post is getting a lot of attention, boost this post. And all you have to do is click one button, boost, at the bottom of that message. And suddenly you've got a boosted post, it's running as a paid ad. And you think, I'm really going for it now. The problem is it's too easy to boost a post and you probably aren't going to do it strategically. And it's really easy to overspend or conversely not spend enough to make it effective. So before you do any of that, take a look at your strategy. Is this an event that you need to get the word out about? Are you doing a special campaign that really corresponds with something unique that you're doing for a period of time in your business? Or do you just want to build brand awareness, which is also an important endeavor? Do you want to build brand authority through some education you want to share or some resources about your business that you want to share that can help customers? So always keep that in mind. On the next slide, we're going to talk about video content. And the good news is that it's easier than you might think. Whereas we used to look for very professional video content in our mobile feeds, which is really where we're seeing the majority of social advertising, they almost needed to look like a professionally produced commercial with a high production value. The wonderful news for small businesses is that's not the case anymore. So you don't need to drop a lot of your budget in the production of video, but you will still want to do it professionally according to your campaign. And here's just a little example of kind of a screenshot of some of the components that can go into a campaign when you're working with someone, a company that has some expertise with social media. But you'll want to see how your video will work as part of your overall campaign. And the whole reason that you want to work strategically is so that you can spend your dollars at the point where they do you the most good, because there are many needs across the board when you are running a small business. And so you really have to see where you can maximize your outreach. On the next slide, let's look at creating social content in video form on a budget. So you don't need a lot of equipment to do this anymore. You can shoot it on your smartphone. If you aren't familiar with how to do that, ask your kids, they can help you. And then you can also import it into several different kinds of either free or low-cost editing software. Just a couple of examples. Ripple was one that was popular, but there are a lot of options out there. And Canva Pro, Canva has a free membership, but it also has a professional membership. I think it's like $12 or $14 a month. And it offers you access to lots of different templates and video components. You can animate posts, you can access their video library so that you can even use some of their video to create posts if you'd like. So there are a lot of different options with that. If you want to tackle your social media yourself and have it look professional, I would recommend at least exploring that idea. Instagram Reels have really taken off. I think between that and TikTok, if it makes sense for your business, we are seeing a lot more business presence on TikTok and certainly Instagram Reels. A lot of times, any kind of reel activity that people do, they have seen a tremendous growth either in their own numbers as an influencer or in numbers that impact a business overall. So don't shy away from creating video content. Just make sure it represents your video, your business appropriately. It has the message that you want to share. It has the backdrop that you want people to see. And remember, you have time to really focus on one singular thing for the most part when you do some video content. So think about that wisely. On the next slide, we'll begin looking at creating a lead nurturing cycle. And you can do this using your social media, connected to your website, connected to, if you'd like, some automated emails. On the next slide, we'll see what this includes. So in this next section, we'll talk about using social media to organically generate some sales leads, because really we're all in business and your social media efforts need to have a return on the investment of either budget that you pay someone to do it or your own time. Don't spend your time freely on this unless you've got some strategy and you can track some kind of return on your investment, because your time is also at a premium. But you can use social media to generate sales leads organically. It doesn't always have to be paid, and consistently, because consistency will really help your business not only grow, but thrive during that process. And then you can even put this lead generation, this nurturing cycle on repeat. So what you'll need to do first is to attract people to your business. And that's what social media is great for. Here, you can reach people that you might not have otherwise reached, because it could be possible that someone who follows your business shares that, and someone new sees that. Through your hashtags, this can happen. Through any paid posts, this can happen as well. But when you are able to create that awareness around your business, you can attract people who are interested in learning more about your business and partnering up with you either through a purchase or just following your business and helping support it in that way. With social media, however, you don't really want to think of it as, I'm going to make this post and get sales to come in from it. Social media is really, as it sounds, a social event. Think of it as a mixer where you go and you meet people and you may have some great conversations, but you aren't going to walk up to someone at a mixer and do a hard sell about your business. Same for social media. You don't want to do that there. What you can do effectively, though, is help identify who your target audience is over time. You'll see how your target audience actually, does it match up to who you intended it to be, or is it a little bit different than you'd anticipated? So that's an interesting thing to keep in mind. But it's a great place to do some stealthy market research about your business. Find out what the pain points are for people. Find out what they want. You can either try to sell people a service that you create a need for, or you can find out what a need is and then design your business to meet that need accordingly. Once you have figured out some of this information, you can create a content strategy that is based on drawing people in through your social media and then converting them from that social media to another place. On this next slide, yes, as we look at the content channel or your website, you'll see that once you bring people from social media over to your website, you benefit because on social media, it's really rented ground. That information you have about your clients or potential clients on social media isn't yours. You don't own it. We've had Facebook go out or Instagram go out, and for companies, small businesses that rely on that for their day-to-day business, losing that for a day, which has happened before in widespread outages, really impacts the bottom line. So the way around that is to think of social media as rented ground, but your website, you own it. Once you move your audience off social media and onto your website, for example, you can capture information about them that is your business's to keep. They may share their email addresses, they may sign up for a newsletter or just to stay in touch. There are other ways that you can see who's visiting your website. And then you have that information about your customers in a way that you don't have on social media if something happens. Now, when you think of your website as another platform or another content channel, you might also think about expanding what you're doing there. It shouldn't really be a static brochure. If you're doing your website well, it will have information that changes frequently and consistently. You can add in there a written blog, a video, even short videos, especially short videos that you take, or even a podcast if that's something you're doing. And when people are at your website, it gives you ways to interact with them in deeper means. So you can send them automated emails to check in with them, to help build a relationship. And that can help convert people to sharing their email address and joining your list. It also helps you identify even further who your target audience is and what they want or don't want out of a business like yours. One way to kind of encourage people to share their emails is you can add a pop-up or something to the top of your website that offers a free resource or a reason to opt in because you are going to give them some kind of perceived value for that. That's a transactional message and a transactional relationship that you're going to enter in with that client. And you want to really be respectful of that so that if someone shares your email address, their email address with you, that you're really sharing something of value with them. Once you have that relationship established, you'll want to look at converting those potential customers into customers. And we'll look at that on this next slide. One of the first things that you want to identify about yourself before you think about converting customers is, how do you work best? Maybe you like to talk to people on the phone. Maybe you want people to come in for a short appointment, or even meet by Zoom for a 15-minute exploratory call. Whatever it is that works for you, that's your conversion method. I'm not great about answering the phone. So I know that if I have had a potential client on social media who's now been on my website, who now has some interest in my company, I'm probably not going to put a pop-up button for them to call me because I may or may not actually answer. So I personally am going to set up a calendar link so that they can go make their own appointment on my calendar so that we can talk to each other, at least virtually, face to face. Whatever works best for you, invite people to connect with you, move those leads from social to your website to whatever your conversion method is that works for you. And you'll want to pitch in some way that conversion at every level in this cycle. So think of it as a circle. So you have people come into the circle at whatever point. Maybe they found your website first. Maybe they found your social media first. So they might go from your social media to your website to potentially a conversion as a customer. But whatever it is, you'll want to keep the customer in that loop you've created by offering them value, so that when they're ready to come out of that loop and become a customer, it's there for them readily. They don't have to search for it. And that is the biggest reason why you want to do all of your efforts on social media and your website consistently, because you want to be top of mind. You don't want somebody to finally have the opportunity that they really need your service or product, and then they're stuck thinking, oh, I had an email once from a company, I can't remember who it was or what the name was, because it's likely that if they go to start that search all over again, it might not be you that they find. So keep in touch with your customers. On this next slide, we'll look at some of the benefits of this lead nurturing cycle that I've just discussed. There's a lot of information on here. I'll just let you read through it if you will, but you can see from these statistics that it really does bear out that this conversion works. It works well if it's done consistently and offers value to whoever your potential customer is. You'll find that when you nurture a lead, as opposed to just blasting out an email or something on social media by itself, that you'll have really a response that better fits the efforts that you're making. And when it comes to social media, it's all about the effort that you're making sure it matches up in some way with the response that you're getting. And the wonderful thing about social media is that you can check in on that information frequently. You don't have to put something out there and wait a long time to see if it's working. You'll know fairly quickly whether it's working or not. So pay attention to that. What you post on social media that works well, repeat it in some fashion again and again. On the next slide, we'll just have an overview of this lead nurturing cycle. It might make more sense to look at it visually. So you have people on your social media, you want to convert them to your content channel. It could be YouTube, it could be whatever your other content channel is. It could be that you want to send them over to LinkedIn or your TikTok. Wherever you grab them on social media, make sure you're converting them to a place that makes sense for your business. We often send people to a website because we feel like that's when they really can become part of that customer business relationship. And when they're ready to become a customer, make sure you're using a conversion method that works for you and that you're comfortable with. On the next screen, we'll just look at a recap of some strategies. So for your social media strategy, post 3 to 5 times a week, do it consistently, and don't make every post a sales pitch. You'll just want to share some things about your company. In a small business, I especially encourage people to share why they started this business, why it was important to them. Often, if you are going to the effort to become a small business owner, you're passionate about something, share that with your potential customers, because customers want to connect with people that are passionate about what they do. Share some expertise. You might be passionate about it, but also you can share with them what makes you an expert. Maybe you have a specific experience or training or education that fits into that. Make sure you're sharing that. And once in a while, pitch your product or service. Convert them over to your website, whatever your content channel is. It helps if you're active on your website and changing that content so it's not a static brochure. It can help to offer people something of value to get them to opt into your communication, and then convert them according to whatever works best for you so that you are entering into some kind of customer business relationship with them. If you have any questions, first of all, I'm happy to answer them now, and I know we'll take some time to do that, but here's my email. Feel free to send me an email if you have any questions. I'm happy to share any information that I have that might be helpful, either about social media or website design or anything related to those things. And at this point, I would love to hear any questions that you might have. I will check the chat, but if you have other questions, please speak up. I'm happy to answer them.
Lori, we do have a couple of comments and questions for you on the chat. One of them was, is Google Plus still active?
Right, that's a great question. In fact, we use it so little that I'm not even sure that it is. And I thought about even taking it off before I talked today, but it's at least something for you to check out. There are ways that you can put your content out across the Google platform. I don't even know that that's an option, but that's the whole point of social media. It's a moving target, and you cannot lock in information about any platform and assume that it's going to be correct in the next 6 months. You'll want to keep an eye on everything, keep tabs on what's growing and what's not. It's almost an entirely other job itself to stay educated about that. Great question.
Another request, Lori, if with your permission, several have commented they would like a copy of today's PowerPoint presentation. So with your permission, Ron and I would be glad to send those out to people and blind copy.
Yes, certainly. That's fine. I hope it's been helpful to you, and I hope that it's helpful in the future. So absolutely. It is just kind of an overview. So if you have specific questions, you can let me know about that. I did see a question in here about in terms of consistency, making a weekly calendar appointment. That's a great idea. In fact, that's what I do. I have a date with myself every week, and I spend an entire day doing all of the social media for that week for the clients that we have. And I will tell you that if I don't make an appointment with myself to do the same for my own business, social media is never at the top of the list. So I just caution you there. If you want to do it yourself for your own business, absolutely you can. You're smart people. You know how to start and run a business. You can do your social media. Just make sure that you are able to set aside the time to do it well.
Lori, Rob has a question.
Yeah.
Rob says, we are a retail store. Is one method of social media more valuable than others to us as a retail store?
Yes, Rob, that's the question. That's an excellent question. And that's what everyone needs to figure out for their business. I would say absolutely yes. One method of social media will be more valuable for you than others. I suspect well, it would depend on what your retail sells, but I would suspect that it would be, first of all, you need a presence on Facebook no matter what, but depending on what you're selling, there's a lot of sales that happen in Pinterest. That's more of a clothing and home decor. It would probably just depend on what your business is, but you'll absolutely want to ask that no matter what your business is. And the great thing about it is you can find out. You may suspect, I think we'd do best on Pinterest because we sell clothing and we can put together outfits and people can just click on that and buy it. That might be true. It might not be true that that's the best platform for you. You may find that doing Facebook Lives to sell your product is much more effective. So try it. Try it in a cost-effective way and track what kind of results you're getting.
Lori, this is Ron. What about blogs? Would they be helpful? And second question, what's a reasonable amount of time for somebody to spend on their social media effort? Is an hour and a half a week reasonable? Thank you.
That's a great questions. Thank you, Ron. If you are going to spend time on your own social media, it really depends on what your activity is. to show you how long it will take. If you have any downtime that you can anticipate during your week while you're running your business, set it aside and get as much done as you can during that time. However, if you're doing posts with just straight copy and an image, that will take you less time than if you're doing a video. The other thing I would encourage everyone to set aside time to do is interact with their customers after a post goes up. That's really the point, is to develop a relationship with your customer. And when you are responsive, and by responsive, I mean right away responsive with your customers, you'll find that they are conditioned then to come to your social media to interact with you no matter what their question might be. Ron, I forgot what your first question was.
Blogs.
Oh yeah, thank you. Thanks for reminding me. You know, I would say yes, just as a blanket statement, yes, that has value. I would say it especially has value if you need to set your business up as a trusted resource, yourself as a thought leader, or you have information to share in a more in-depth way than you would through a social post. You can then share a link and drive people to your blog, and that's really an excellent way to get traffic.
Lori, I had a question from a small business customer this week at the library. This was a customer, her name is Leslie, that has some digital promotional products she's wanting to sell. And she was wondering if Facebook Marketplace would be an opportunity, or if there's something better than Facebook Marketplace to get her products out there.
I think there are better ways to do it than Facebook Marketplace. Facebook Marketplace has some value, but it's also been inundated with fraudulent and scam posts. And so people have become very, very cautious. And so anyone selling a product might have a hard time accepting a customer's money and then shipping out a product, because the thing that we see happening now is that people are turning to local transactions so that they can both pay and exchange the product at the same time, because they aren't receiving those the way they once did. So that might be an uphill battle. Depending on the products, it may be more value to have some kind of Facebook Live on a regular basis where customers come to expect that and they look for that. I know a particular clothing boutique that has Woohoo Wednesday every morning. They're doing a live sale of and showing products, and people have come to look for that. They look forward to it happening at that certain time, and it has really impacted their sales in a positive way.
Very nice job. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you for having me. And thank you to everyone who took the time to listen. It's truly been my pleasure. John, I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second. I think you might still be muted.
Okay, thank you, everybody. For the last half hour here, we're going to spend some time looking at library services and that can complement what Lori talked about today, and how they can help you with social media as far as finding sales leads, using some of our professional audio video equipment to do some of your social media projects. So we're going to start at the library webpage, and that is wichitalibrary.org. We have a link under Research and Learn for starting a business and all of our small business resources. So you click on Research and Learn, scroll down to Start a Business, and this will take you to a link to all of our resources for small business and development. So as I mentioned, we have a professional audio visual studio that you can check out at the Advanced Learning Library. This has state-of-the-art software, professional video equipment, professional audio equipment. People use it for a lot of their social media posts when they want it to look very polished. So that's an option for you here at the library. We also have general collaboration rooms that you can reserve a week in advance for up to 2 hours. They're free to do so. You can do it from our website under services. Just click get a meeting room and you can pick your day, time, and meeting room. It's a good place to study quietly. It's a good place to meet somebody if you have customers or clients and you want a private room to do that. You can also project onto our large video screens. So you can plug in your laptop into our HDMI port and have it projected on the screen, your PowerPoint presentation or your social media applications. So keep those in mind. Also, I want to encourage everybody to get a library card. You can get one for free. And with that, you'll be able to access our electronic resources that I'll showcase today that deal with social media marketing. And also, you'll have access to, of course, all of our books, DVDs, our new library of things. So we're starting to check out lots of things like telescopes, radon detectors, internet bundles, which include a Chromebook and a hotspot. So a lot of neat things that we're doing here at the library that you can check out. That'll not only save you money, but will give you resources to enhance your social media marketing aspects. So here at our Start a Business page, this has all of the tools and resources to operate a small business. We have, of course, business-related books, magazines, trade journals, several databases. I mentioned the free collaboration rooms, and we also have larger spaces to rent. We have a conference room that holds up to 300 people. We also have high-speed wireless internet access, as well as technology training. If there's a software or an iPhone watch or any piece of technology that you'd like to learn more about, we have a Book a Librarian service where you can set up an appointment for an hour session of free one-on-one training for your device, whether it's software related or hardware related. That could include downloading ebooks, audiobooks from the library's website, or just any of your own technical applications you may want to learn more about. These are some of our recommended business books that we have. And during the slideshow, I did show you some of our social media marketing books. I think I came across about 24 different books that we have specifically on marketing and social media marketing. So you may want to check those out at your next trip to the library. The call number is going to be 658.402 for most of those books. And that, once you're in that area, you can browse and see exactly what we have and what you might like to check out. So to start with, on our business databases, I'm going to show you the Small Business Reference Center. This is a tool that shows you all aspects of starting a business. It has sample business plans, industry information, information about business basics, and other business areas, things like accounting, insurance, management, hiring employees, getting rid of difficult employees. So lots of different areas to do research. These are some of the different business areas that can be researched. You see marketing and public relations here. Also, you can do a keyword search, and I did one of these earlier this week. So if you put in social media marketing as your search term, you're going to get 4,700 articles on social media marketing. And these will give you, if you limit them to the different magazine articles, reports, books, and case studies. So you can click on where it says PDF full text and you'll have full text of that article. Also HTML full text. And you can print, save to a flash drive, create your own custom database of social media marketing articles and educate yourself what other social media marketers are doing in the field, not only here locally, but all over the country. So a great way to do research. These are the magazine articles. There's also some case studies. So if you want to look at some specific case studies, here's one with Reebok, editing and refining its social media footprint, marketing with social media, case study with leveraging social referrals. So check that out for some interesting case studies. There's also reports. So here you're going to get charts and graphs, tapping different markets and industry as it relates to social media. We have also got book links here. So a lot of chapters and books, information on market trends, social media boot camps, marketing, both profit and nonprofits. So just a lot of information. You can spend literally hours doing research on social media marketing and all the different things that are out there. We'll take another look at the magazine articles and take a look at just clicking on the full text of the article and then opening. You'll download it and open up the article specifically for you. And again, you can save these, print them, use them however you would like as you're doing your research. Okay, and the next tool we're going to look at is the business research. So we'll again go to research and learn, click on start a business. We'll look at the Business Source Premier next. This has research on company profiles, brand information, rankings, company histories. You can search by keyword again, so social media marketing. That's a search term and hit search. And this comes up with nearly 7,000 articles as well. So articles like integrating social media with integrated marketing communication decision-making frameworks. That's from a professional journal of marketing management. You can limit these to full text articles as well. So it'll give you all the ones that have full text. And again, just clicking on the link will take you to either the HTML version or the PDF format for that particular article. They also have a listen feature so that you can listen to this via audio file as well. So if you're not into reading, or if you want to listen to some of these in the background while you're doing other chores, that's an option as well by clicking on the listen button. You can also search for company profiles. These are going to have all your Fortune 500 companies, all of your public companies, a lot of your larger private industries as well. You can get country reports on economics and political background for different countries. And you can get market research reports as well as industry profiles. So lots of good information. Again, just searching by keyword, what you're looking for is going to bring up a list of all of those articles. And then we're also going to look at the A to Z database. This is fantastic for sales leads. And I know Lori mentioned that in her presentation, finding out specifically who your target audience is, and then going out and finding them. This A to Z database is a great tool for that. We'll look at the mailing list, sales leads, and email lists where it says 30 million businesses get started. And if you have a social media service, a marketing service that you're wanting to target a certain, let's say, business size, and here locally, you can go to business size, under employee size, choose up to 4 employees. You can also search by revenue. So some of these smaller mom and pop businesses are not going to have media staff on hand. Kind of like the library has a full-time marketing professional here that does nothing but sells social media marketing for us. But some of your smaller ones you may want to target, and you can target them by city, state, zip code, whatever parameter you might want to. We'll use Wichita as our geographic select. So I'll pick the state and the city. Once I have that selected and I update my count, comes up with 4,625 businesses that have either up to 1 to 4 employees or up to $500,000 in sales per year. So you can go through and get a customized list of all of these businesses here locally that probably don't have a marketing manager on board and may be in need of social media marketing services. Once you click on a particular business, you're going to get what's called a full business profile. And this is what one would look like. So here's a business here called Central Forms and Printing. It gives their address, Google Maps link for directions. And you can also see what the business looks like. It tells you what their main line of business is, the website for the business. It tells you how many employees they have and their sales revenue for the last year. Gives you the year that they were established, so how long they've been in business, and tells you whether they're a private company or a public corporation. This is going to have Fortune 500 companies as well, but your mom and pop are, of course, are going to be private companies. It also gives a business credit rating for each business in this database, so you can see whether this particular business is good about paying their bills on time or not. So if you have clients and customers out there, you can put their business name in here and get their profile as well. Over here, you'll see industry codes. SIC codes stands for Standard Industrial Classification Codes. They're generally 4-digit codes that represent a specific type of business. So that might be a yellow page heading like pet shops, florist, printers, that sort of thing. There's going to be a specific SIC code. Once you have that SIC code, you can go out and find all the competition and find out how big the market is, whether it's a local market or nationwide. So I use these SIC codes a lot when I'm doing market research for small business customers. There are ones for social media marketers as well. A lot of them are listed under advertising professionals and marketing professionals. So we'll take a look at a couple of those codes a little later for social media marketers. NAICS codes. NAICS stands for North American Industry Classification System. And these are a little bit longer codes, usually 5 or 6 digits, but they deal with a lot of your newer internet type companies, your social media companies, things that have emerged in the last 15 or 20 years. The NAICS codes tries to cover those industries as well. A to Z contracts with Indeed.com. So if a company has job postings, they'll be listed in this section here. So it looks like they're looking for a Material Resource Center volunteer coordinator. Also in the business profile is a QR code. So you can quickly add this contact to your phone or tablet using the QR code. It also has a list of the top 10 area competitors of this business. So you can go in and find out who the competition is and go into each one of these individual business profiles to get more information. Also, it has some historical data about the last 5 years worth of sales revenue trend. So you can tell whether this is a growing business, a stable business, or a business is declining. Same thing with employees. Are they hiring employees? Are they staying stable, or are they laying employees off? Also, they have nearby businesses. So if you're doing some kind of canvassing or a flyer program, nearby businesses are going to be listed. So all of these are going to be on Central Avenue as well. And then it also gives an executive directory, so you can get actual contact names for key executives, usually the owner's name, the manager's name, maybe an HR person. This is generally where I find email addresses too. People ask me about how do I get email addresses for business professionals. And generally this is where they'll be located in the executive directory of the business profile. Also, you'll notice an internet presence. So if there's a LinkedIn, Facebook, website, information, they'll generally be listed here and hyperlinked to go straight to them. And then finally, you'll have a list of estimated annual expenditures for this business. So a lot of the key areas like their accounting and bookkeeping, their advertising expense, their business insurance, how much they're spending on legal fees, office equipment, rent, annual rent for this area, as well as their technology and PC equipment, telecom, and utilities. So if you're doing a business plan and you're not quite sure what numbers to put in your business plan, you can find a similar business that's already out there and in this A to Z database and use those estimated annual expenditures for your 1, 2, and 3 year startup expenses. So that's generally what a profile is going to look like. I mentioned looking at social media marketing, so I'm going to do a quick nationwide search. Social media marketing and search the entire US. I mentioned the NAICS codes and the SIC codes. They'll be listed in each one of these businesses here. This came up with only 59 results, and I know there's a lot more social media marketers out there. One of the reasons why this only comes up with a limited list is I'm doing keyword specific, so that has to be in the title of the business. But if we go into one of these businesses and look at the SIC codes, you're going to see advertising agencies. So if I take 7311, I'll copy that and plug that back into an SIC code and give you an idea of how many advertising agencies and social media presence are in Wichita based on the A to Z database. But again, here's a strategic mobile social media marketing out of Post Falls, Idaho. Gives their contact information, their website, how many employees they have, sales revenue of $6.7 million and in business since 2017. Gives their business credit rating, the QR code, some of their area competitors. Looks like increasing sales revenue the last 4 or 5 years, and added a few employees as well. And this is a larger business, so it's got some higher estimated annual expenditures for these major business categories. But with this SIC code that I have now, I can go to the SIC code link, which is here on the left side, and paste that into here, 7311. We'll go with Wichita, Kansas. And you get a little over 102 that are here in Wichita. So I know Signal Theory is a big one here in Wichita. And many of these have more traditional marketing and advertising businesses, but several of these are social media specific as well. So they rank them by sales revenue from the largest sales revenue to the lower sales revenues. But there's 5 pages of listings here. Concentrix, they're another local one. I think that's more social media. And here, yes, under their SIC codes, you'll see it broken down further to digital media and online advertising, and then also a NAICS code of advertising agencies. So they'll have a specific category, 7311-008 would be the SIC code for digital media and online advertising. But that gives their location, their executive officer, their website, 21 employees at this location, 45,000 corporate wide, so probably in the entire US. $3.9 million in sales last year and in business since 2015. They have an excellent credit rating, their QR code, and some of their competitors as well. And then here's an example of an email address for the executive officer under the Executive Directory tab, and their annual expenditures as well. So A to Z is a really powerful database. I use it weekly, working with small business customers to do market research and find out who their competition is. If you can come in and tell me what your product or service is, who your target audience may be, we can get some customized lists generated for you that will have listings of all the potential competitors out there, how big the market is. So just a really powerful tool. And you'll see all the different ways it can be searched by geography. It can be searched by state, city, metro area, county, zip code. It could even focus on address. You can also do keyword searching, which is going to be similar to Yellow Page heading keyword searching. You can use the SIC codes or the NAICS codes to find companies and businesses. You can search by business name, whether it's a headquarter or a branch, whether they have an email presence or not. For example, you could hit email preference and zip code and get all the businesses in your zip code that have an email presence on their business profile. We touched base briefly on business size. So if you're targeting certain business employee size, you can go as low as 1 to 4, 5 to 9, 10 to 20, all the way up to 10,000 or more. So you can do it by employee size. You can also do it by sales revenue. We mentioned the smaller companies up to $500,000, but you can also target mid-sized companies in the 1 to 5 million range, or even the 500 million to over $1 billion range. You can search by toll-free number, by area code, by phone or fax. If you're targeting women-owned businesses, you can do it by ownership, and you can do only women-owned businesses or exclude women-owned businesses. You can also search by public or private company, whether it has a small business indicator or whether it's a franchise, and several other unique methods that may be of interest to social media marketers. You can search by number of PCs the organization or business has, the square footage, if there's a website name present, if there's a URL present, whether it's an import or export company. If it's a nonprofit indicator or nonprofit organization, they're included in this database as well. You can search by Fortune 1000 companies, and you can also limit by credit rating, year established, and estimated annual expenditure. So a lot of different selections. You can choose as many or as few of these selects as you want, and gather data that way. You may want to ask, or I get asked where this data comes from. If you click on the data quality tab here at the top, it tells you where they get their information. A to Z is a business out of Omaha, Nebraska, and they've been compiling these lists of business information for libraries for decades. So most of your mid and larger size libraries are going to have access to this. And of course, we make it available to our library customers for free with their library card. The businesses, a lot of their information comes from annual reports, from the SEC database, the EDGAR database, Security and Exchange Commission filings, from corporate registers, public records, National Directory Assistance data, and other yellow and white page directories, as well as business directories. They also do a lot of telephone verification. I believe about 60 to 70% of their information is telephone verified by the business. They also do deep web mining, and they take advantage of the national change of address system put out by the post office to keep things current as far as addresses and business openings and closings. On the residential database, they have information on over 240 million residential listings. They get that from National Directory Assistance data, from public accessible information like real estate deed and tax information, voter registration data, mail order data. And anytime you fill out a warranty card, whether it's in print or online, those warranty cards get put together and put into these types of consumer databases. So with this tool, you can find out who's a pet owner, who might be into motorcycles. So a variety of different lifestyle and preferences can be found using the consumer database. I mentioned they contract with Indeed.com, so they have over 7 million job postings. You can get part-time, full-time, contract positions, internships, temporary positions. Those are all listed in here. 2 million new businesses. So if you have a product or service that focuses on a business that just started up in the last 6 months to a year, this database will tell you who those businesses are and how to contact them. New movers and new homeowners are added weekly. So part of the Register of Deeds will tell you who has purchased homes in the last months, and people that have used the change of address for the new movers and apartment owners. So if your product or service could benefit somebody that's just moved recently, this would be a good database to use. And then finally, there's a healthcare database as well that covers 12 million healthcare professionals. I had a small business customer in the past that needed a list of all of the doctor's offices and physicians and surgeons in Wichita. And using the healthcare database, we were easily able to compile a list of all of those so that she could market her services to them. So that's kind of where their data quality comes from. And here are the actual databases you can search. So we did the sample searches with 30 million businesses. This is the consumer side of the database that covers 240 million residents. We've got the new movers and homeowners database here. The 2 million new business databases would be featured here. The healthcare professionals database, and they also have a universal database that can search simultaneously the business and residents at the same time. So it's a very powerful tool. We recommend you use it. We use it all the time here at the library when customers call in and ask for addresses or phone numbers. But I use it a lot for my small business customers as well to do more in-depth market research and finding who their competition is. Looks like we may have some questions, so I'm going to take a look at the chat screen here real quick. Yeah, people love the A to Z database. It's a wonderful tool. I'll tell you, the library does spend about $17,000 to $18,000 a year to provide this information, not only to staff, but to our library customers. If you went out on your own to A to Z and tried to purchase 1,000 sales leads, they're going to charge about $1 per lead. So you could expect to pay $1,000 for what you can do here on your own with a free library card. So it's a real money saver if you're a small business owner looking for sales leads, trying to do your own market research or find out who your competition is. Or if you're trying to flesh out a business plan, it can get a lot of information as well. So yeah, more information about A to Z. Yeah, wonderful. Well, we are getting close to the wrap-up time. So if I don't see any other questions, I'll go ahead and wrap things up.
Ron, this is Ron.
Today's session. Sure, Ron, go ahead.
You might point out the data list is downloadable. So bring your flash drive and capture the information that you've looked up.
Exactly.
And the other thing I would suggest is each of you go check your own information that's in A to Z. And if it's not correct, you've got an opportunity to let them know.
Yes, Ron mentioned downloading. You can go ahead and bring up a list. When you click on the top of the next check mark by the business name, it'll put a check mark by all of these on the first page. I believe you can do 1,000 records at a time. So you could do up to about 20 or 30 pages at a time. And then you would come over here to the download area, give it a file name like coffee shops, and you can download into Excel format, delimited format, or just basic text. And you can get the results view, which is what it looks like here on the screen, or the detailed view, which goes into each one of those individual business profiles like I showed you and captures all of that information for you as well. So that can allow you to download, or you can email that information to yourself. Just put your email address in here, give it a file name like Coffee Distributors, and again, save it in a PDF format or Excel or common delimited form. So thank you for bringing that up, Ron.
You're welcome.
Got a question. What are your hours, days at the library so we can set up a meeting? Generally, the library is open from 10 a.m. till 8 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and 10 to 6 Friday and Saturday, Sunday 1 to 5. My hours vary because I do work some weekends, so I'm off sometimes during the week. But if you can either email me or call me, and I'll be glad to try to set up a time that's conducive and good for both of us. We also have some other staff as well. So if I'm not here, we have other staff that can help you get on A to Z or to search some of this business information as well. So feel free to either email me. My email address is jcleary, that's CLEARY @wichita.gov, or you can call me at 316-261-8511, and I'll be glad to try to set some time to email you, set up a time. Another question is, how can we help the library continue its service? How are you funded continuing the service? We are primarily funded through the city of Wichita, so most of our funding comes from there. We also have a Wichita Public Library Foundation, which covers a lot of our special needs, some of our books, some of our databases. Those staff will go out and actually write grants for the library and collect them through the Wichita Public Library Foundation. So that's how we're funded. The best thing you can do for us is to get a library card and use our services, use our databases. We keep detailed stats on how many people use the A to Z database monthly, how many books are checked out, how many business books, how many marketing books. So, and also how many library cards are issued each month. So get a library card, check out our books and our services, use our databases. That's the best way you can support us. Also, let your local council members know how much you appreciate the library and funding the library has. That's always a good thing too. So some other comments: learn something new about our local library. Proud of the offerings. Yeah, and use our professional AV studio, use our collaboration rooms, use our Wi-Fi. We keep stats on everything. So the more you use your library, the better it is for us to continue offering new and good service. All right, Ron, is there anything else you would like to add? Okay, I think we'll go ahead and wrap up then.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you for participating in today's program. You can use the emailed link in the chat for a quick survey that we sent to you. Please take a few minutes to complete that survey, and we look at each of these and it helps plan future programs. Your feedback is very valuable to us. If you're interested in any upcoming library programs, please visit www.wichitalibrary.org/events for a complete calendar listing. Thank you again for your support of the Wichita Public Library. This ends today's program. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Thank you, John. Are you going to send out the slide deck, or do you want me to?
I'll let you send out the PowerPoint presentation, Ron. I will go ahead and update you with a list of all the participants as well.
Okay. Everybody that attended should expect a survey form from SCORE. We welcome your comments on how we can improve the program. Lori, fantastic job. Thank you very much. And if you're in need of a small business consultant, SCORE's price is right, free, for as long and as frequently as you'd like to work with us. Everybody have a great weekend.